Now have Doug Callander, who was the New South Wales chapter president for 2000-2001. So Doug, what was happening in your year as a president of the New South Wales chapter of National Speakers?
Well, I guess the biggest thing was the Olympic. It was the year of the Olympic Games in Sydney, so I guess there was a bit of excitement around, a bit of a buzz, but I'm not sure it had a great impact on what we were doing, except for the fact we missed one meeting during the time of the Olympics, so we didn't have an October meeting. But yeah, apart from that, it was an exciting time to be in Sydney, but I'm not sure it had a marked impact on the association.
And Doug, the highlight during your presidency?
Well, I was reflecting on that earlier, and I'm struggling to think of any particular highlights. In fact, going back 5 years, I'm struggling to remember the speakers that we had on each time. But I think we had a good, consistent year of strong meetings, and I suppose I sort of came to it with a business attitude. A couple of years ago, I ran a couple of highly successful events, The Art of Marketing You and The Art of Speaking, that led to a bit of a bulge in the membership, which carried through Candy's term and then onto my own. And I guess I was pretty busy in my own business at the time, so I feel I did more of a caretaker's job than really set any great new initiatives. But I suppose if I brought anything to the chapter, it was a bit of a business sense, you know. And
Indeed.
very clear about the fact we had to get members in order to pay fees, in order to run a profitable and successful chapter.
Which it was, which
yeah,
it is.
And,
yes,
and of course Rob took that even further.
If there was a worst moment, what was it?
I'm reluctant to reveal this.
No, you don't want. No pressure, no pressure.
No. It's all against me, because somehow leading up to the annual general meeting that occurs an hour before the normal meeting, or that was the custom of things, somehow that slipped through the cracks. So at the very last moment, we put on this annual general meeting in order to record it in the minutes, and I've got to say it was a pretty half-hearted event. This was highlighted, or my inadequacies were highlighted even more by what Rob did in the following year, which you might remember was an extravaganza with slideshows and all sorts, and graphs and all sorts of things, you know. So I sat there very meek and mild, thinking about
It's a good job you preceded him.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, I think if I had gone after him, I couldn't have forgotten to put on a display for the annual general meeting. But it was a low-key event before me, and a very low-key event the year I was president.
So, Doug, how did you get started in the speaking business?
Well, I was between executive appointments, and I came out of a job running Kelly Services in Australia. I was the CEO there, and when I left there, I sat around for a while thinking about what I might do, and I've always had a bit of a fascination with speaking. In fact, the guy that inspired me most was a guy called Tony Knight, who used to be the MC for the marketplace luncheons that AmCham run.
Right.
Back in the heyday when they were big affairs, you know, they'd have 100 to 200 people there, and he used to run them down in Melbourne. And he was the managing director of the Yellow Pages organisation that I worked with. And I once heard him speak to the whole organisation, and he had everyone on the edge of their seats. You could have heard a pin drop, and I've always remembered that moment, and I thought it'd be nice to be able to do that. And of course I've been chasing that goal ever since.
So you've done very successfully in the business.
Yeah, the business has gone well. And anyway, to answer the question, how I got into it was I just, through a network of people, I ran into a bloke who had an idea, and I took that idea and sort of ran with it and started running a little course, and one thing led to another. And the business you're referring to grew out of that, which was essentially a training business, and as it grew we ended up with about 15 staff and a couple of million turnover, and then I sold it. And it was during the heydays of all that I was president, so I sort of had another job.
You did too,
and it was hard to dedicate the time that I really could have and should have dedicated to NSAA.
Oh, well, we applaud you as a very good example of how to do the business. In terms of the topic, how did you develop your topic?
Well, that came out of this little idea that led to, I guess, in some quarters, me being known as a phone man, because for the last decade and a bit, probably 12 and a half, 13 years, the thing I've done most of is this converting inquiries. You know, what do you do with an inquiry that comes into your business? How do you turn that into real business? So that's I guess where I've got my reputation, and that's what I've most often spoken of.
So what's your thoughts on product?
I wish I had the I wish I had the tenacity to sit down and create it.
Yeah,
I think product's good. It's probably a different style of business. Once you get a lot of product, you've got to market through different methods than you would a traditional speaking business. But I can see the advantages of it, and it's on the goals list.
What do you wish you'd known back then? Is there anything that you wish you'd known?
I'm not sure known, because I sort of knew it, but what I wish I had have done was used the other committee members and other members of the association more actively. You know, I think involving lots of the members in projects and things that you're doing gives them a sense of purpose, and also it obviously makes the presidency a lot easier if you've got a lot of helpers that are assisting in various areas. So I don't think I did enough of that.
What's one must for professional speakers?
Research your audience, know who they are, how much experience they have, and what they actually do. What are their job roles in a little bit of detail, so you know what a day looks like for them, so that when your message is packaged for them, it's relevant. I think relevance is a huge issue for speakers.
Definitely. So what's a top tip for professional speakers?
Top tip for speakers, I would think, would be to research their audience, to know what they do in some detail, and who they are and how experienced they are.
Excellent.
I can't think of a better tip. I assume that people know what they're talking about in terms of their topic, but I think a little bit of that research and caring. See, it shows a bit of care that you bother to get a little bit of information about your audience, and as that classic saying goes, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Then that little bit of effort that you put into researching the audience, I think, comes through in how you present your material, makes it more relevant, and people like that.
Have you one last thought?
Well, I guess one thought that does come to mind is that Rob Salisbury had a wonderful 2-year presidency where he really left his mark on the association, and I think Rob owes me one big thank you for setting him up so well for that 2-year stint.
Yeah, and Rob says thank you.